What is going on, Governor? It's Chisgule here, and today we're bringing you our Ark of Osiris League matchup. That's right, we played Ark of Osiris, and I actually think we did need to win this matchup in order to advance to the top 16. Now, in this matchup, White Tigers, we've got 3 billion power. We're battling against HK Revolutionary, OUO, at 2.3 billion power. Now, based on the power alone, you'd think, well, the player or our alliance that's got more power should win. But this is not always the case. And we've seen a number of matchups where that's not been true. We take every matchup totally serious, fully focused on getting the best outcome we can within Tigers, and this matchup was certainly no exception. Now, one thing that I mentioned in the official Ark of Osiris League cast is that every time we rock Ark of Osiris League, we try to test stuff. In this matchup, I'm testing Ethelfled. I'm trying to figure out what role she should play in my roster, and I actually 6-starred her, although I only have her at level 50. I've 6-starred her just to make sure that I can test her out and get a sense of what it's like. I wanted to launch a few counter rallies with her, but we ended up being so focused on offense and so far down the field that I ended up instead primarily using Ethelfled to support rallies that were hitting structures. And, you know, I think what you're going to see in this matchup is that the timing with which I send my Ethelfled down the battlefield could be a good bit more crisp to actually arrive when the rally is arriving. Now, I'm recording at 2x speed, and I'm also zoomed in a little bit so that, you know, the aspect ratio is just right. I'm finding that when I play on my iPhone 11 Pro, I have a good bit more stability, and so that's what I'm doing. Now, at the start of this match, we're sending a couple units out to the field to actually help support the initial capture of structures. We also join King of Armenia's rally on a structure, and although we are going to teleport forward, and we are one of the first people who does teleport forward, we do also want to offer some support to these structures, so we are sending our troops to go and help with that. We've got 3 marches that will be out on the field, and in order to teleport, all of those marches will need to be in a building, and also we can't send a scout. I really wanted to scout a lot, and let me tell you, I have wanted to send scouts in Ark of Osiris League so many times, and just like never been able to keep track of what the scout's doing because there's just so much going on. There's so much going on. I've really not had success with that. So maybe in this next one, I'll figure out how to actually scout proactively, effectively. For the most part, my intention with scouting would be to identify what the counter combination of commanders would be to launch our rally with. And, you know, maybe the play here is to have someone who's in the back line that's not going to teleport, do the scouting, and then report out. And that's probably a refinement we'll be making in the not too distant future. Now, one thing I wanted to do was actually send infantry to help support these initial building captures, but my concern was that infantry would be too slow, given that I'm dumping my speedy infantry into King of Armenia's city, and because I was planning to launch an infantry rally almost immediately after teleporting in, I didn't want to have my speedy infantry caught out and in a position where I couldn't actually launch a rally. Now here you can see that rally actually landing on the obelisk, and we're now in the structure supporting it. There's 2 other structures that are nearby that we're going to have to get into in order to teleport. One's the Sky Altar. We've got a minute till we need to actually be in the structure. The other is the Shrine of War, and thankfully they didn't pressure us at all in these positions, so we didn't have to worry too much about getting into those structures. I will say I was a little bit concerned with the lack of marches that we had supporting our capture of that altar, and that's also probably a refinement we'll make, is to make sure that there are enough marches by that altar to cap it at the start of the matchup. With less than 15 seconds to go, it's worth calling attention to the fact that I don't think you can actually drag and drop to initially capture a building. So I hit the attack button, and in this case, I can use the reinforce button because someone else has capped it to actually get into there. I go to teleport in, and my buddies are nice and snug. I send back my infantry, and now I'm going to launch that rally as I promised. I targeted the Shrine of Life. At the same time, King of Armenia targeted their altar. The intention is to apply a lot of pressure to both of those positions, because if we can capture either of those, we're very happy to do that. Now here you can see I'm joining King of Armenia's rally, and I used really weird troop choices. What I wanted to do was not use any of the commanders I might consider using to launch a rally. And when you're a rally leader, it's sort of a different ballgame. You're not thinking about filling rallies with your top tier commanders. In fact, you really want to avoid doing that. You want to put into the rallies commanders that you would not want to use for launching a rally. I do send out a scout here, but it's totally meaningless. I also, by the way, am supporting the King of Armenia rally here with 2 marches. I've got a Minamoto with Saladin and also Ethelfled Barca. And my intention is to debuff the Desert Altar because I think they've got healing in there. So Saladin is going to apply a 30%, I think, healing debuff for 5 seconds. And then also, Ethelfled is just going to provide the 30% defense, health, and attack down. And Barca is going to provide 25% defense and attack, or maybe 25% defense and damage down. So those are pretty sweet. And then boom, my infantry march is hitting. I don't have to watch it. I don't have to pay attention to it. The infantry march does its thing. I basically prioritize supporting the Desert Altar over supporting my own rally, in part because then potentially I could get into the structure if I needed to, but also because it's the bigger point gaining structure. So that seems like the more important thing to hit. So I take my I try to take my junkie captains. Junkie. They're really not junkie. They're fine. But I try to get them into the structure because I'm just going to leave them there. And I think at one point they end up actually being the captains of the structure because a whole bunch of folks left. But whatever, that's fine. That's fine. They did their job. At this point, there was a call to support the middle. And there was a lot of concern, actually, that they had too strong of a presence in the middle, and we weren't going to be able to handle that fight. So I go in and I start to send some of my marches to go and support that, while still also supporting my side, since my primary objective is actually supporting my side as a rally captain. Here we're launching a rally on the outpost. I don't know, I was just sort of toying around with this to sort of capture it in the backfield and then leave my marches there. And I think this first rally that I launched, nobody supported. And the second one I launched will actually get some support, although the person who jumped in with me has somewhere else to go that's more important, and he heads out later. But I kind of wonder how important it is to rally those structures in the backfield, because, I don't know, if you can force your opponent to have to take them back with a rally, that seems like a pretty decent situation. There you can see my rally was canceled, and my marches are just arriving to the craziness that is the middle of the field. Now, I sort of struggled a little bit with what my contribution should be. I've got a cavalry march here, which means that if I'm careful, I could actually try to march the Ark of Osiris at some point if I want to. And I debated, do I really want to get into the middle of the fray? Instead, I actually positioned myself to take down the carrier, which is the thing that we knock out there. And then I try to run away, but I think I realized I'm really not going anywhere. I may as well commit my march to the fray. It's done its job. And now I need to go launch another rally. I give this another shot. I would rally something more meaningful, but we were at that time already rallying the obelisk. We held their Shrine of Life and we held their altar. So that's why I decided to start rallying these outposts, because I was like, what else am I rallying? What else am I rallying right now? Theoretically, I guess I could have been focused on launching a counter rally. At this point, though, instead, I think I start to take my troops and I say, you know what? I'm going to march my troops over to better support the middle. So I'm going to abandon my troops I'm going to actually abandon the Shrine of Life, sending my troops to the middle. I'm going to send an archer march, and I'm going to send a cavalry march. So I'm sending pretty much as I can to the middle at this point to try to offer some amount of support, given that that's not supposed to be my role, right? And holding these structures is pretty important. We did manage to capture their obelisk, which is pretty significant. This is where I was going to support the obelisk, but everybody was saying, hey, we really need the Ark, not the obelisk, and I agreed. So instead I obliged by sending my super speedy infantry march up that direction. That is Alexander the Great with Charles Martel. Here I throw some shade. Minamoto shades emoji. I don't know. Just having a good old time. And just looking at all our marches moving down the field here. A lot of marches going places. And these brawls over the Ark are very contentious. It's hard to get a hold of the Ark in this mess. I tried to target it at some point, but just had a really hard time doing that. I wanted to pick it up and potentially carry it, but that was very hard to do. And that works to your advantage if you do pick up the Ark. Here you can see my co-conspirator who joined my rally there, heads out to go other places, which I think is correct. Like, we really should probably canceled that rally and maybe gone to support the middle. But I do feel good about the point disruption of hitting a structure. I actually feel really, really quite good about that. Here our marches are making their way in, and I'm not entirely sure what to target here to be, maximum effectiveness. There's so much craziness. Here we got our now 3 marches all together. And to some extent, I just kind of want to hit something slow moving so I can definitely be hitting it and do a bunch of AoE to hit all the other stuff. I target some infantry, which seems pretty good. And then I'm going to notice this Joan of Arc in the middle and say, oh yeah, we have to hit the Joan of Arc instead. And that's what we go and do. And that melts pretty quickly. It melts pretty quickly. There actually is another Joan of Arc in there that I probably should have targeted. But walking into that craziness means you're just going to take an unbelievable amount of damage, which I do not love. If you're marching into that kind of crazy, you want to have a lot of commanders that do AoE and reduce the damage taken, because the amount of incidental damage you're going to take from being in that craziness is going to be non-trivial. Here we see a breakout from Butter with the Ark, and Butter was running this thing all day. That dude was running the Arks all freaking day, hunting for those opportunities to move it towards safety. And really, in that situation, every inch is kind of like a mile. Every small amount you move this toward your side makes it easier and easier to support that. And we start to gain control over the middle of the field. Now, I had a number of players message me after this match and indicate that this really was a pretty major turning point in the matchup. OUO contributed just a ton of forces to the middle to try to get the Ark. But because we were able to stop that and then ultimately start to get control of it ourselves, it cost them a ton of structures, and they ended up not even getting it, which was very, very costly to them. It was very costly to them, and at this point was really kind of the turning point in the match. But good news, there's still plenty of opportunity here for us to go and test lots of combinations of things, which is what we sort of go and do next. Here I'm launching more rallies on their outpost. This actually is a rally that I'm going to cancel because I see here that the Shrine of Life is in trouble. And what I wish I had done is I wish I had started sending my Ethelflaed in that direction. Oh, good, I did that. Good for me. Good choice, Chisgule. I start sending my Ethelflaed, and I am going to cancel this rally. I think I did maybe even cancel it a little prematurely. I could have used that as a mechanism to move my troops down the field, at least sort of in the right direction. I send an additional march of cavalry over. Now's when I cancel the rally, and I keep expecting, like, all right, when am I going to launch this rally? When am I going to launch this rally? I was actually very surprised at how long they were able to hold on for with this particular defense. It was very impressive. I now send one more march down toward this Shrine of Life. We're pretty committed to taking this thing back, and again, my role in this matchup is to dominate the structure game, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Here we send cavalry. I don't know that was the right choice. I don't know why I thought that was going to counter what they were doing. I should have sent archers. Oh, yes, I know what I did there. The reason I used that combination is that I already had all my other rally combos probably in the field. And so that's all I had available to me was that third tier combo of bringing cavalry. Now, this is kind of interesting where Talib was hitting the Shrine of Life, but then turns potentially to face the other folks. At least I thought he did. Now that I'm watching the replay, it looks like he didn't, and I should have hit the Shrine of Life with him. That would have been a better play. I thought he was turning to battle the other players, but it looks like that's just graphically the nameplate is sort of moving around, but his armies didn't change focus. So I wish I had been swarming it with him instead of doing what I'm doing here. But I don't feel horrible about this choice because I do have a rally that's coming, and I want the rally to tank the damage. So here's the rally. Didn't take that long for the rally to arrive. And boom, now we're cooking with gas. We've battled off the other armies that were supporting nearby. Ethelfled's doing debuffs, Saladin's doing debuffs, Barca's doing debuffs, and now we've got a lot of marches committed to this side of the battlefield. All in all, this matchup was a lot of fun to play. There's, of course, more in this battle, but with a 14,000 point lead, we're pretty much locked at this point to win the match, assuming that we don't all just exit the match entirely and kind of forfeit. I then decide to support King of Armenia in capturing an altar, and I send all my marches over. And this is where I get caught kind of out of position with my Ethelfled. There's not a lot I can do about this. My Ethelfled marches slowly. That just is the reality. I guess I could put more points into march speed. I haven't yet, though. And that might be a thing I do if I continue to use her for being a solo march, hitting things, rather than being in a rally. And I actually originally had envisioned launching counter rallies. I just never really got the opportunity to do that I was hunting for over the course of this matchup. So because we're swarming pretty hard with King of Armenia and other players with a lot of marches, we take this Desert Altar, we drop our marches in, and we keep the pressure on their obelisk, forcing them to commit at least one march more than we're committing to defending it. Our Shrine of Life does get attacked. We had pretty much abandoned it in order to try to get the altar, which I think is fine. The altar is worth more points. We did get it. And I'm feeling fine about that choice. We've got plenty of other players that can go and then rally it, which is what's going to happen next. Gotta drink our chocolate tea. We've been talking all day casting matches on the official Ark of Osiris League cast on the Lilith Gaming? On the Lilith YouTube channel, which is pretty cool. Here we're sending our Ethelfled again, getting her into position to really enable with a bunch of debuffs. And I think this time around, I actually forget that I send her. And I send her to a gathering node, which I think in hindsight, I just have her attack the building. Yeah, they'll know it's coming. I think it's fine. I don't think it's that big a deal. We're once again reinforcing a rally, and we're trying to pick commanders that we don't really care about. This is actually a counter rally with Ethelfled. And I'm very excited for how this pans out, and you'll get to watch that unfold a little bit over the course of this. We also send some troops to reinforce the Shrine of War, and the technique that I just did there is that I did initially reinforce it in order to get my troops out of the city and heading toward it. But then instead of actually reinforcing it, I put my march near it. That way, I don't prevent someone who's closer from actually getting into the structure. And you can see now it's at maximum capacity. So I decide, all right, I'll just swarm this rally then. And here's the counter rally, arriving about when the rally was hitting, which is pretty sweet. We even have siege units in there, which is kind of nuts. And we had over 2 million units in that counter rally, which is a big deal. The rally on the structure can only have 1.5 million. So the fact that we had 2.1 million troops in the counter rally means that they were going to be in a lot of trouble. Here I am supporting King of Armenia, using my Ethelfled to provide debuffs, and I think we get kind of wrecked here. We get wrecked. It's fine. Our defense is successful in the Shrine of War. We send our troops back home, and we position for the next thing. Our rally on the obelisk is going to lose, but again, I think it's meaningful pressure, forcing them to have those marches on defense instead of attacking. Now, we continue to pressure that Shrine of Life as best we can. It is getting remarkably low, but they're going to reinforce it, and I think they will hold on to it. And rally after rally, we are just keeping the pressure on their obelisk, preventing them from sending those marches to a more meaningful part of the battlefield. Hashtag chocolate tea. So, King Talib and others are now starting to swarm that building. We've got our cavalry committed to the Desert Altar. I'd love to have that particular set of commanders back, but they're so far downfield, and the structure does need defense that I just decided to leave them there. I don't know if that was the right choice. Here I am throwing shades again. The Minamoto shades are real. We've got another arc moving toward our backfield, and, again, with 21 minutes left, I think we've got this match pretty well wrapped up. We're now, yet again, sending our Barca and Ethelfled down the field to position for another rally, and maybe this is the time. Maybe this is actually the time where I end up just sort of farming resources for a while instead of actually helping. Oopsies. There's a lot going on. My strong recommendation is that you try to minimize the number of places you need to be looking simultaneously, the number of marches you need to be managing. Probably could have been doing a slightly better job. Somehow that march ends up just standing there. I'm not even sure how that happened. Yeah, and we start to move them toward the Ark area. Here, I think we're getting some amount of value using the AoE from Yi Seong-Ye, hitting all those marches that, look, they've got a full obelisk worth of marches, and they've got 5 marches committed to swarming the thing. I feel like we're getting some value there. I feel like we're getting some value in terms of forcing their troops to be somewhere they're not particularly interested in. Here, we're sending, yet again, another mixed army to support, this time, a city rally. At this point in the matchup, we make the call on our side of the map that we're going to start rallying cities, which is a different style of pressuring the backfield. And basically every single player on our side that had ported forward was launching rallies on something. We do have a lot of teleports stacked up here. We've got 7. So it's entirely possible that we should be doing a better job managing our teleports. We realized that our Ethelfled wasn't doing anything, so we get in on some fighting over here, which, it's fine. Some open field fighting is fine. If they're battling that instead of battling the Shrine of Life, I feel like we're doing something right because we're getting the points. We launch yet another rally on the obelisk. Oh my gosh. And we're just battling with our remaining armies in the open field. Our Ethelfled Barca getting totally melted here, and they really don't have a lot of defensive capability. And the way that I have their talent build set up now also is doing me no favors. We definitely could make that army a whole heck of a lot more tanky. The way you would do that is by getting loose formation from the support tree and the talent that's a little bit further down that makes it so that after you take skill damage, there's a chance to reduce the amount of skill damage you take even further. Here, I'm cruising through these pretty quickly, but you can see there's a lot of rallies going on here, which is what I had described earlier. I actually, by the way, have been really happy with Minamoto and Saladin as a pairing. I find myself using that pairing more and more, and I'm inclined to believe that I will end up ultimately starring up Saladin to make that pairing Saladin Minamoto, with Saladin as the primary. I think the rage engine that comes from Saladin is really quite strong, and I actually kind of wonder, will it even be a Minamoto secondary at all? Probably. I don't know what other cavalry commander I would use at this point, but I also find myself wondering, okay, are we near to getting new commanders into Rise of Kingdoms? Usually we go through a couple cycles of Mighty Governor, a couple cycles of the Wheel, and we've had that for Edward. We've had that for Tamaris. I'm inclined to believe that within the next month, we'll see a new commander announcement, which is pretty exciting. I personally am currently saving my sculptures to use on Wu Zetian, just in case that becomes a thing that is available to me. And I'll probably expertise her if I can on the spot and level her up to 60. And I've saved up a bunch of experience tomes to do that, but that means I probably need to slow level my Ethelfled and slow level my Saladin, if that's a route I want to head. I probably will even commit 20 universals, which is what it would take me right now, to get Saladin to 5-5-5-1. I probably will go that route and then slowly start to level him up and star him up even further. That seems like a reasonable play to me. The folks in OUO do a great job swarming my archer army. However, that's what I want them to be doing, so it's sort of playing into my favor. And then I launch the next rally. I mean, it is just rally after rally after rally. Every 3 minutes or so, a new rally is actually hitting that structure, doing some amount of work. And I start to break my own rule, sending real armies to reinforce rallies with real commanders because it's getting toward the end of the game and it's all totally fine. Seems totally fine. We're now reinforcing a King of Armenia rally. He asked for cavalry, and I actually have run out of T5 cavalry, which I found to be fairly remarkable. I couldn't believe it. So I'm probably going to be training some more T5 cavalry when I next have the opportunity. I ended up having plenty of infantry and plenty of archers. So T5 cavalry is probably my pickup. A lot of those that I'm going to train. We have a lot of stone right now, so that seems like a fine thing to go and do. We didn't ultimately test using Ethelflaed to launch rallies. I wish that I had done that or prioritized that. I don't feel terrible about it, though. Here you can see 2 rallies on their way, plus my rally, 3 total. You're going to see moments here where we've got like 4 rallies on the screen at the same time, which is pretty aggressive. It's pretty aggressive. King of Armenia launching a rally with 2.4 million troops. We realized at some point we have cavalry in our freaking march, so that's why we were going slower. We, instead of having full infantry, we had some cavalry in there, which is non-optimal, but like it's fine. The number of times we hit this obelisk, kind of incredible. So watch this. We have 1 rally hitting a city, okay? Then we've got my rally coming in. It's going to hit the obelisk. And then there's going to be a couple other rallies that connect pretty soon here. And this rally, despite having a lot of the talent points invalidated by virtue of having not full infantry, does really pretty well. It does pretty well. A lot of pressure being applied to this obelisk. And they realize, we got to defend this thing. And they jump in there just in time. I like the backfield pressure that an obelisk rally provides. Yet again, we queue up our Ethelflaed to head down the field and provide some amount of support. Yeah. Look at that. Full siege units. You know, when you run out of the big stuff, you use siege units because that's what you got. Here we're going to support a King Talib rally. He asks for archers. We drop our archers into that rally. King of Armenia launching a rally. It's got a lot of siege units. And this is where, look at that. There was like 3 rallies on that screen at a time. One was hitting a city. One was hitting another city. And then mine was hitting the obelisk. One of those cities burning. The next city burning. And those cities are going to get ported back to their starting zone after not too long. We continue to swarm that city for better or worse, and yet another rally is going to arrive to hit a city. We're going to actually support this rally coming from Red Arrow, and we're going to contribute to the swarm, although, this city was in a lot of trouble. It also gets burned. All their troops were out and about, which is why it got burned, and I don't know. I should not have turned and hit the city there. That was silly of me, but inconsequential, ultimately. Totally inconsequential. We launch yet another rally. Yet again, we're down to T4, so I got to train some more cavalry. Apparently, 1.2 million T5 cavalry is not enough. We were using them all over the place. And I mean, in fairness, Ark of Osiris is a format that really does value that march speed that you get from cavalry. I think it's actually pretty reasonable to have a bunch of extra cavalry specifically for your Ark of Osiris or Ark of Osiris League. Now, our cavalry march that we used to support a rally was kind of caught out of position. We let it happen. No big deal. Throw in some Minamoto shades as we cruise down the battlefield with our rally. And we launched a cavalry rally in part because we knew that cavalry would actually get there fast enough. And we're hoofing it down the field in order to have a little bit of fun in the last 3 minutes of this match. Looking at the scoreboard, we're sitting in like 5th or 6th place, which is pretty good. Feeling totally fine about that. All right. We also send our solo march. This is when we realize our Ethelflaed was just sitting there doing nothing. Our solo march is going to come help at the obelisk, and our timing is just totally off. Our rally is going to get completely wrecked before, I think, Ethelflaed is even going to arrive in a meaningful way. And you can see this player, Scott, probably is about to turn and hit the rally with all his marches. He is. Very smart play here to defend the obelisk, and our Ethelflaed is kind of a little bit late to the party. A little bit late to the party. Her AoE is likely to hit multiple of these enemies, but doesn't matter. We got there too late to actually really meaningfully help the rally. In order to meaningfully help the rally, which also means we turn and start to fight somebody else, because we definitely do not want to be hitting that structure with no support. Instead, we'll hit all these marches in the open field and get completely melted. We get completely melted. Overall, really happy with how this Ark of Osiris match went. Really appreciate the great play from OUO and appreciate having the opportunity to battle against them and play with them. This victory moves us on to the top 16, and we'll have all those matches on our channel as they happen with my evaluation of some of the takeaways and the things that have gone down. So here you see we land the victory. King of Armenia hanging out with his Cao Cao as the highest individual contributor, the MVP. You can see we did more killing here and almost no healing. OUO did a moderate amount of healing, but honestly not a ton. Our provision score was about the same. Apparently, I got a couple records for myself, which was pretty cool. We claimed the goodies, and we're on to the next week. My friends, hopefully you have enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like and subscribe. It means a lot to me as a content creator, and we'll have more of this good stuff to come. And we'll also be casting on the official Rise of Kingdoms channel. Until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.